excessively. Anyway, frustration amplified in a sacral that's undefined. We should be good. Yes.
I'm not seeing it yet. Just a minute. Yes, you're on. Say hi.
All right. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to the Quantum Alignment Show. I am Karen Curry Parker. I'm excited to welcome you all here. We are going to be talking today about your chart and specifically about the nature of how you process energy, how that impacts your creativity. We're going to be talking about the 9 centers in human design. And we're going to be talking about the centers not just in the context of openness, which is how we talk about human design a lot. We talk a lot about open centers and the drama of the open centers. We're also going to be talking about some of the things that happen to our centers when they're defined, and hopefully my intention is to give you a little bit of more insight into the way in which your energy operates, the way in which your centers function, and different ways that you can rethink the nature of your unique energy configuration to tap into a higher level expression of your authentic self and support you in creating a life that is the reflection of who you truly are. So if you are watching live on Facebook, don't forget you can post your comments down below and your questions. Cindy is here, my wing woman. She is watching the questions, and I will do my best to make sure that we have a little time at the end for questions. If you're watching in Zoom, you will see that you have at the bottom of your taskbar a little tab that says chat. It's got like a little text balloon in it. If you push that, you can type chats in there. I cannot see your questions or the chat while I'm teaching for 2 reasons. Number 1, I don't know where my glasses are again. And number 2, because it's hard for me to see the slides and the chat at the same time. The way the platform works, it doesn't really let me do both at once. So Cindy is here to interpret for me. So thank you, Cindy.
Doing sign language on the side. No. Of course, you can't see me.
It's going to be more than that. You have to like buzz me or something. So, all right, good. So welcome, as I said, to the Quantum Alignment Show. This is the Quantum Alignment System. This is an integrated modern approach to human design that looks at not just the mechanics of human design, but the drivers behind why we do what we do, and how we can shift and change the perspective of who we think we are and take concrete, integrated, actionable steps to bring out your fullest and your highest potential. This is the human design chart. And if you do not have your human design chart for some reason, or you've never gotten a human design chart, please visit my website. It's www.understandinghumandesign. On the top right-hand side of that website, there's a little box you can fill out. We actually hand calculate charts for you. So I'll have somebody actually hand calculate your chart, put it in the computer, make you a nice printout. We'll email it to you with a nice little report, and you can get started learning about it. Either way, you're still going to learn something about it. If you don't have your chart today, you're going to learn something, because this chart is really a blueprint for the potential of the human experience. And the truth is, even though we all have our unique configuration, our unique expression of our human journey in this lifetime, you all actually have all of the chart. And you may relate to elements of the chart, even if you have it colored in or white on your chart when I talk about it, because we are imprinted in the way in which we perceive ourselves in a lot of different ways. I will say, and I'll probably get in trouble someday for saying this, but human design explains a lot. It is a very powerful, insightful tool. It's also a mechanical understanding of how you operate in the world or how you perceive yourselves to be. The truth is, you're way more than your mechanics. And the energy that flows into you, the drivers that flow into you, even the way in which you're imprinted goes beyond just the mechanics of human design. We also have to look at your neurobiology, your past experiences, sometimes your traumas, your joys, even your genetic programming, your epigenetic lineage adds to the story of who you are beyond just the mechanics of human design. But we do have all of the chart. It's just like, if you think about it this way, within the cells of your body, you have the entire human genome. All of the DNA of humanity is contained within you, but you're not expressing the whole genome. You're just expressing the bits that make you, you, right? Human design is very similar to that. We have within us the potential to experience all of the aspects of the human condition, but we tend to by virtue of our unique configuration, specialize in experiencing certain elements, certain archetypes more commonly as part of our life story than others. But we do have the ability to know all of it through not only our own understanding of ourselves, but through our experience of others. In the human design chart, there are 9 geometric shapes. Those geometric shapes are called the centers. And I'm actually going to go through all of the centers today, provided that I talk really fast and we'll get through it all. But I wanted you to see this because when we talk about human design, we talk about human design being a synthesis of Eastern and Western astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the Hindu chakra system, the Judaic Kabbalah, and quantum physics. The 9 centers are very directly correlated to the Hindu chakra system. And if you're familiar with the chakras, and many of you are, you know that there are 7 chakras, unless you've studied other teachings. There are 7 chakras in the Hindu chakra system. The 9 centers correlate to the 7 Hindu chakras. And I'm just going to walk you through which chakras they correlate to. So the head center, which is the yellow triangle at the top of the chart, correlates to the crown chakra. The Ajna Center correlates to what's oftentimes called the third eye chakra. The throat center correlates to the throat chakra. The heart chakra actually has 2 centers associated with it. That is the G center, the diamond in the center of the chart, sometimes also called the identity center or the self center. The red triangle to the right that's just below the yellow diamond is sometimes referred to as the heart center, the ego, or the center for willpower. Both of those centers correlate to the heart chakra. The sacral, I skipped one. The splenic center or the spleen and the emotional solar plexus, the 2 brown triangles on the right of the chart, opposite the red square or sort of kind of adjacent to the red square. Those 2 centers, the spleen center and the emotional solar plexus, correlate to the solar plexus chakra. The sacral center, that's the red square, correlates with the sacral chakra, and the root center correlates with the root chakra. So as you can see, there are 9 centers, 7 chakras. The heart chakra has 2 centers correlated with it. The solar plexus chakra also has 2 human design centers associated with it, the spleen and the emotional solar plexus. When we talk about the centers, and anytime actually we talk about human design, when we look at human design in the context of all of the archetypes within the chart and marry it with neurobiology and human developmental cycles, what we see is that if we look at the entire blueprint of humanity and we look at what drives a human being and what supports a human being in being healthy, resilient, sustainable, and abundant in their life, we see that humans need 9 core basic things to be optimally functioning, to be able to express the highest element of their potential, to be able to tap into their creative power, and to be able to access their natural state of abundance in a sustainable, equitable, and peaceful way. And another way of kind of thinking about this or saying this is that if you took everything that's in the human design chart, if you took the 5 types, the 12 profiles, all the centers, all the circuits, all the channels, all the gates, all the bases, and the tones and the colors and the lines, and you just threw them all in a blender and you mix them up around in the blender, what you would find is that at the root of all of the complex, delicious, juicy, diverse energy that makes us who we are, at the heart of it, there are 9 core things that we all need as human beings in order for us to go out in the world to operate from a place of trust, abundance, possibility orientation, faith, expansion, and all those good things that make us grow into being the fullest expression of who we are. When we go through the 9 centers today, I'm going to also look at the 9 centers in the context of the 9 core human needs most commonly associated with the 9 centers. So those 9 core human needs, I'm going to just briefly jump into this. I'm not going to go into depth in this because this is literally everything I talked about last week on the Quantum Alignment Show. And I've actually posted some videos about this, and I will post at the end of the call today when I hang up, I'll post a couple of videos in the comment section below on Facebook that are just going to be little short 8 and 10-minute introductions to these concepts. But just in the context of what we talked about last week, when we look at what influences how you create your life, how you create alignment with your true self in your life, and we look at the mental and the emotional body being two parts of what I like to call the filter through which you connect with the field of possibilities. The mental and the emotional body is where we contain the code for how aligned or misaligned we are with our 9 core basic human needs. If you think of life as a game, and I think that's a good perspective to have, if you think of life as a game, and you're going through that game, the goal of the game is to get to the highest expression of these 9 core needs as possible. And by virtue of life being a journey, and by virtue of the fact that even built into the chart is a little bit of opportunity for struggle/adventure, that when we go through cycles of growth and expansion that sometimes are rooted in struggle or adventure, depending on how you want to look at it, that those struggles, those adventures, those challenges we have in our lives, and really honestly, in each and every one of your charts, you have kind of your own built-in adventure. We're designed to kind of wrestle with ourselves as part of our growth process. The more we mature, hopefully, the more we experience the expansion and the journey of life, your individual life, the more you get to have opportunities to expand on the highest expression of these 9 core basic needs. Now, these 9 core needs, which I sometimes call the 9 resiliency keys, are lovability. And you don't have to scramble and take notes because I'm going to go back to these a little bit later. Lovability is your ability to give and receive love and to perceive yourself as being lovable. Empowerment is the feeling of being powerful in your life and having control over what the outcome of what you create in your life. This particular key is so important. Actually, lovability is so important that if we don't get this, we literally die and our neurobiology doesn't develop. Empowerment is so important that we have we have 2 entire developmental cycles that we go through as children that are part of this resiliency key. We go through a developmental cycle all about power when we're like 2 to 5 years of age, and then again when we're young adolescents, 13, 14, 15, 16. Courage is another one of these resiliency keys. We have to know how to manage the energy of fear and interpret fear so that it doesn't keep us stuck and blocked. Decisiveness is the ability to know how you make a decision and to be able to trust your own decision-making powers. Emotional wisdom is the capacity to use your emotional energy as your source of creativity and to deliberately create versus being emotionally reactive. Trusting yourself, knowing how you know, trusting your own inner voice, your own wisdom, your own direction in life, your own connection with your authentic self is part of being resilient and one of the core basic human needs. Knowing how to leverage your energy, sometimes I call this vitality, meaning if you're not physically vital and connected to your own life force energy in the way that's right for you, it's difficult for you to create in the world. Authenticity is your ability to express yourself as yourself without compromise, without hiding, without letting the vulnerability of being who you are in the world hold you back from being who you are in the world. Please don't do that. And last but not least, your own sense of value about who you are and your role in the world are a core human need. If you don't perceive yourself as being valuable, it's very difficult for you to create a life or to take the actions that you need to take to sustain yourself in the world. Think about this. I know this is a weird thing, but I want you to just think about this for a minute. There is a high correlation between taking your vitamins every day and valuing yourself. And I would lovingly and gently suggest if you're not doing what you need to do to take care of yourself, you might want to look at a little bit about, ask yourself, how much do you own your own preciousness? Are you perceiving yourself as being precious enough to sustain yourself and take care of yourself? All right, let's get to the juicy parts. So please look at your chart for the next part of the presentation. I know that for some of you, this is review. And I promise you that no matter how many times you hear this, you're going to get something else out of this. So roll with me here for a minute. When you look at your chart, you're going to see that on this chart, there are colored in aspects and there are white aspects. Anything that's colored in, we call it defined. Anything that's white, we call it open. If you hear me pop back and forth between my vocabulary, roll with me here because I'll say it 20 different times and I don't mean to. I try really hard to stick with one word, but colored is defined, white is open. Sometimes we call the white parts or the open parts undefined. When everything in your chart that's colored and defined, these are energies that are within you all the time. You have consistent access to these energies all the time. And to a certain degree, you're somewhat fixed in how you use these energies because they're yours. This is you. This is who you are. It doesn't mean you can't learn. It doesn't mean you can't learn to express these energies differently. But this is an aspect of yourself where you're not really getting a lot of influence from the outer world. This is your own inner learning path. Your definition is what you're here to learn about yourself from yourself. The definition in your chart, the parts that are colored in, these are energies that you broadcast out into the world. And to a certain degree, these are energies that people perceive when they encounter you on an auric level or on an energetic level. They might not know the details of who you are, but they'll feel your definition. Wherever you have openness, anything that's white in your chart, that's where you're taking information and energy in from the world around you, and also, by the way, from the planetary transits. So when you hear me, if you're listening every week to my Human Design Evolution Report, what I'm looking at is the planetary movements and how those planetary movements activate certain archetypal energies and what that theme creates for us. If it's creating a theme that you have open in your chart, so let's say the sun moves into a planetary position, to a gate position, that is something you have white in your chart. That means that week you're going to be even more influenced by that energy than say let's say you have a partner who has that colored in on their chart. They're not going to notice it as much as you do if you have it open. So wherever you have openness is where you have the ability to take in energy from the world around you or from the people around you. Now, you don't just take that energy in, you take it in and amplify it. So you're sensing it and you're feeling it in a very amplified kind of a way. You feel it in a large way. The openness in your chart is designed to teach you about those energies. It's actually places where you're designed to be wise and to become wise about those energies, because you're experiencing them not only in an amplified way, you're also experiencing them in a variable way, which means your experience of these energies are going to be different depending on who you're with and how the planets are moving and where you are. Because of that variability, it's not fixed. Because of that variability, you get to see and experience all these different ways of that particular kind of energy, which, by the way, you do have in your chart. If you say, I don't have this in my chart, that's not the right way to talk about it. You have it undefined in your chart, which means you don't have a consistent experience of that energy. You have a variable way of experiencing that energy, but you have that energy in your chart. Get that, because we all have all of the chart. My students know I say this all the time. Now, here's what happens in the open centers. When we have openness, because we're taking in energy and we're amplifying it, we experience it in a big way. And because we oftentimes don't understand the nature of our human design, we're not taught, not yet from birth, who we are and how our energy works. Because we experience it in a big way, we often mistakenly think that the energy we're feeling from others is actually our own. And we get confused and we get disconnected from our consistent energy, our definition, the colored in parts, and we start to identify with the intensity of the experience we have in the openness. Now, this does a couple of things. Number one, it creates predictable behavioral patterns, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. It also creates mistaken motivations in relationships. It makes you act funny in your partnerships because sometimes you're living off of somebody else's energy that isn't really your own, and it makes you behave in a way that doesn't always support the healthiest expression of yourself in your partnerships. The other thing that happens, particularly in the context of creativity, is when we have openness in our chart, and you'll see as we go through these in a little bit, especially in certain key areas like the head and the ajna, or the emotional solar plexus, or the sacral center. When we have openness in our chart and we're taking in energy from the world around us or from other people, it's very easy for us to get confused about what we really want in our lives. And so we start creating and taking actions and setting goals and intentions around something that we think we want, something that we're feeling that we want, that we're now kind of molding our entire life towards. And when we get out of that influencing energy, or we take a step back and reconnect with our own energy, our definition, the stuff that's colored in our chart, then we realize that we've been crafting a life or a life path or a goal or intentions or trying to create something that isn't actually really true to us. And I find a lot of times when we're talking about manifesting, or we're talking about abundance, or we're talking about deliberate creation, or setting goals, even, let's keep it non-woo-woo, setting goals, that it's not unusual for you to struggle with, what do I want? Because sometimes we don't know what we want, because what we think we want is actually something we picked up from somebody else's energy field, and it confuses us. Or number two, if you get stuck or blocked, or it seems like nothing's happening, and you think, oh, well, there must be something going on inside of me that's blocking it. It might not be that at all. It might be that underneath all of what you're trying to create or working towards, your higher self is pretty savvy. And your higher self is going, that's actually not who you are. Let's not make that happen. Take a step back. Let's get connected with who you are. And what do you really want? What's really right for you? What's in alignment with your real desires, your real intention, your genuine life path? So I always like to start this conversation of the centers, which we're going to go talk about the specific centers next in just a minute. I always like to start this conversation with this awareness and this reminding that maybe part of what's going on with you is not that you're stuck or blocked or broken, but that you're trying to create something that you think you want or you think is yours, but it might in fact be from lifetimes of exposure, or a current relationship, or a current friendship or partnership. It might be from the influence of somebody else's energy on your own energy field that you might be misinterpreting, that's causing you to think you want something that in fact you don't really want, but the people in your energy field do. And so you've taken it in, you've amplified it, mistakenly identified with it, and you're allowing it to direct your life goals, your life intentions, your path. And it might be confusing you and keeping you actually disconnected from what's good and right for true for you. So in this next section, hang on. The only thing I don't have is I don't have a clock when I start doing the slides, and I don't know what time it is, but we're good.
We're good. You have over 30 minutes, and we already had a question, but I'm waiting.
Good. Let's hold on with questions. I promise. I'm feeling pretty confident that today, because I really this week I was like, keep it simple, keep it simple, keep it simple, which is hard for me because I have so many things I want to share with you we only get an hour a week, and I want to talk to you forever. So in this next section, get your chart out. I'm actually going to go through all the 9 centers. I'm going to go through the 9 centers in the context of openness. How does this impact you if you have the center open? I'm going to go through these 9 centers in the context of what might happen if you have it defined, and how might it influence you. And I'm going to go through it in the context of the 9 core needs, what 9 core needs might not be working well for you if you're struggling with either your definition or your openness. Before I do that, especially when we talk about the definition, and I didn't create a pretty slide for this, but I talked about this yesterday in my email that I sent to you guys, but I just want to speak to this because it's really, really important. Traditional human design talks a lot about binary systems, and it communicates oftentimes an understanding of human design that is binary. Binary meaning this or that, A or B, black or white, on or off. And it doesn't give you a lot of options in between the two defined points in a binary system. I really think that as consciousness has evolved beyond Newtonian consciousness, beyond formulaic thinking, into the emergence of quantum consciousness, that we cannot look at the human experience as this or that, A or B, on or off, black or white. And in fact, if you look at our emerging world and the consciousness, and even some of the things we've been wrestling with it just in politics in the last few years, we're looking at the possibility that being human isn't black or white, up or down, 0, 1. It's really a spectrum of potential. And anything that's in the chart, especially when we talk about definition, the colored in bits, anything that's colored in the chart is a spectrum of potential. And so when you're looking at the definition in your chart, right now we're going to talk about centers, but this is true even of the gates. It's true of your type, it's true of your profiles even. You're looking at a spectrum of potential expressions. Everything in this chart is an archetype. And archetypes are really by nature neutral. If I say the word, Father's Day is coming up, so I'll say the word father. If I say the word father, a father is somebody who identifies as being male, who has children of some way, shape, or form, right? So that's a pretty neutral definition. But your understanding of father and my understanding of the word father and my experience of the word father and my husband's experience of the word father and your brother's experience of the word father, all of our experiences and understandings of the word father and all the different ways that the energy of father can get expressed is quite variable. And there is literally a spectrum of potential expressions of father, right? On that spectrum, we have what I like to call the low expression of father and the high expression of father. In your chart, everything that's colored in is an archetype that you have a fixed and consistent way of experiencing. But in that fixedness, because the chart has within it, your life experience has built into it the potential for growth, you always have the option to experience that archetype on a spectrum. So you might experience the energy of something in your chart in the low expression. Let's take the example. I'll show you this example. You see this gate right here, the gate 10, coming off the left-hand side of the diamond in the chart. That gate 10 is the gate of self-love and self-empowerment. It's also the gate of blaming and victimization. Okay? Those two energies are really kind of at opposite ends or at opposite poles on the spectrum of potential of that gate, right? You can have self-loathing, victimhood, disempowerment, or self-love and self-empowerment. And, generally speaking, our life experience is going to flow across the spectrum. You will have days when, if you have this gate as a theme that you're playing with in your life, where you definitely slide into the victimhood consciousness thing. We all do that. And you will have days when you're like, man, I'm so empowered. I'm so in love with myself. And sometimes you'll have something in between. And that's the human process. The more we understand about our definition and our openness too, but especially with definition, well, I'm not going to say that. It's true for definition and openness. But the more you understand about your chart and your definition, the more you can choose consciously where you want to fall on that spectrum of the expression of your chart. You can begin to have control over how you express the archetypes in your chart. This amps up, by the way, your creative capacity, your ability to have a certain degree of power or to know how to leverage your unique energy blueprint. All right, that was my little segue there. The 9 centers. First, we have the head center. The head center is the center for ideas and inspirations. It is sometimes called a pressure center. And most of you, 7/8 of the people on this call and on the planet, have this center open. It is a center that has the purpose of actually questioning everything. And this is a whole nother class. And I'm sure as I'm saying this, Cindy's going to go find the video and post it below. But we are actually designed to interface with the quantum field through asking questions. When you hear the phrase, I think this comes from the Christian Bible, ask and it is given, right? We say ask and it is given because we are designed to ask the quantum field for what we want. And when we ask, then the quantum field responds by collapsing or drawing into our reality, bringing into our physical manifest reality things that match the question, things that match the answers to the question. I'm going to talk more about that, by the way, in the 14-day Manifesting by Human Design program. That's going to be one of the biggest focuses we're going to work on in this 14-day challenge that's coming up, and I'll tell you more about it at the end. But one of the things we really look at is how do you use the power of your chart and the mechanics laid out in the chart to leverage what you create out of the quantum field. Most of you, as I said, will have the head center open. And so you get under pressure, and you get under pressure to answer questions. And honestly, when that center's open, the questions that you have plunked into your beautiful, brilliant mind are probably not your own. You've picked them up from the world around you. And it leaves you with a life pattern of always trying to figure things out. So if you have an open head center, it's really important for you to, number one, recognize you don't have to figure everything out. Number two, you don't have to answer every question that flows through your head. And number three, pay attention to whose question are you actually really trying to answer? Is it yours, or does it belong to someone else? The head center is the center for inspiration and imagination and possibility thinking. The highest function of this center is for us to have a question, and then while we're waiting for the answer to show up in our outer reality, engage our imagination and our possibility thinking. What would happen if? I wonder what this would be like. What would that be like? Because the power of your imagination actually stimulates your creative capacity, and it actually calibrates the magnetic resonance field of your heart and influences what you attract into your life experience. Your imagination is very, very powerful. So when we say your thoughts create your reality, it's really more that your imagination stimulates your emotions, which calibrates your heart center, which stimulates the electromagnetic field of your heart to draw into your experience things that match your imaginary process. It is, as I said, a pressure center. If you have this center defined, and that's going to be 1/8 of you, it means that you are an inspirational force. It doesn't mean you have to go stand on a stool at the grocery store and inspire everyone. It means that your presence is energetically inspiring. People will be inspired energetically by your presence. And your path in life, part of your life path, is to inspire others. Now, when it comes to manifesting and deliberate creation, the defined head center is really not much of a bugaboo. When you have this open, particularly if you have it open and you are subject to the pressure, you're constantly trying to figure things out, come up with the answer, figure things out, figure out how am I going to do this, how am I going to do this, how am I going to do this, and you start rationalizing, you get stuck in that head center. You may find that you also struggle with decisiveness because it's hard to make a decision if you're using your mind. And you may struggle with self-trust. You might not trust your own thoughts and your own inspirations or your own direction that your mind is telling you you should be taking, because you shouldn't be following your mind. There are other ways to make good and powerful decisions, like follow your human design strategy for your human design type. The Ajna Center is the center for conceptualization. This is the place where we take thoughts and inspirations and possibilities, and we really begin to concretize them and turn them into more concrete, third-dimensional thought forms. The perfect role for the Ajna is to latch onto a thought and to hold onto it and stay connected to it. It can be somewhat fixed if it's defined. It can be somewhat fixed in the way in which it thinks about things. If you have the center open, the gift that you bring to the world is you have the ability to see an idea or a possibility from 360 degrees. You can see around ideas. You can see possibilities. You see things from multiple different perspectives. And that's a gift, you guys. That's a gift. But we are trained from the start, especially if you study deliberate creation materials, we are trained to visualize and to hold on to your goal and see that goal and don't mutate away from that goal. Stick to it and hold your vision. If you have an open Ajna, that is a very difficult thing to do. You cannot hold on to a fixed idea or a fixed vision. I think that's why sometimes we try to supplement that process with things like vision boards, right? Because then at least you can look at it and go, oh yeah, that's what I was doing. If you have an open Ajna, you're not designed to hold on to fixed ideas. You're designed to be fluid in your way of thinking. But there's a struggle here, and it's always going to be under pressure, because if you have an open Ajna, you're also always going to have an open head center. If you have an open Ajna, you're always under pressure to be certain. And sometimes what happens is you overcompensate, and then you give yourself a headache trying to stick to a fixed idea that isn't really your idea in the first place, instead of allowing yourself to be in the wisdom of the flow of the ideas that are coming through you. So this is a center for information storage and management. It's conceptualizing, possibility thinking, and imagining. If you have a defined ajna, yes, it's wonderful. You can remember your phone number from when you were 12 years old. Woo, because you can take information in and hold on to it forever. And visualizing might be an easier thing for you to do than somebody who has it open. But this is fixed ways of seeing ideas and perspectives. So sometimes when you have a defined ajna, it can actually be somewhat fixed or limited in your thinking. And that fixed thinking or that limited thinking, especially if you say you have a set of beliefs up there that are not supporting you. If you're thinking things like, I'll never have money, or if you're thinking things like, I'll never meet my soulmate, or if you're thinking things like, no one in my family has ever been successful before, and you have a defined ajna, you might have to work a little extra hard to get those ideas out of that stuck head of yours, that stuck thinking, and find new ways, new ideas, new belief systems to install in there so that you don't get locked or stuck or fixed in ways of thinking that don't serve you. The core needs for the Ajna Center, again, most commonly associated with the Ajna, are struggles with, again, decisiveness. Again, that's rooted in trying to make decisions with your mind instead of following your strategy or your instinct. And again, trusting yourself. If you are struggling with any one of the aspects of this Ajna Center, whether it's open or it's defined, you might find that you really don't trust your own thinking or even don't trust your own insights. And that can oftentimes lead to really feeling unsettled or even feeling paralyzed in being able to make a good decision because you don't trust your own ability to make a good decision. The throat center. The throat center is the center for manifestation into action and the center for communication. And those two are very closely tied because you can't manifest things into action if you can't communicate what you're doing in the first place. The piece that's really important to understand is the configuration of the throat is crucial to determining type. If you are a manifester, you have a defined and motorized throat. If you are a manifesting generator, you will also have a defined and motorized throat, meaning you have a throat that's connected to an energy center that's a motor. If you are a generator, you will have possibly a defined throat, but you will have a non-motorized throat. That means anything you create has to come from waiting. If you are a projector, you will have either an undefined or a non-motorized throat. That means, again, anything that you create has to be in some way involves in some way, some kind of waiting, something from the outside of yourself. If you have a reflector, you always have an undefined throat. The challenge here is if you have an open throat or an undefined throat or a non-motorized throat, meaning if you're a generator, projector, or reflector, you will always be struggling for recognition because the non-motorized and or the open throat, the generator, projector, or the reflector, needs to be seen or recognized before they can be heard. And if you have had a lifetime experience of struggling to be seen and heard because you haven't been trusting the trajectory of your energy path and your life path, and you haven't been waiting for the right people who get the value of who you are and the value of what you're here to communicate. If you haven't been waiting and you've been pushing because you've been trained to push, because you've learned that, okay, they don't hear me right now, I'll get louder. Or they're not hearing me right now, but I'll wear really bright clothes. Or they're not hearing me right now, but I'll do something inappropriate. This is middle school, right? I'll do something inappropriate to get attention. I'll be the class clown, and then everybody will see me and hear me and recognize me. Oftentimes when you have an open throat or a non-motorized throat, you have a lifetime pattern of doing things to be seen instead of doing what you really want to be doing. Doing things to be seen instead of doing what you really want to be doing, because that recognition is so crucial. By the way, it's not about ego and being seen. It's actually about energy movement. When you have a non-motorized or an open throat, when you're a generator, projector, reflector, you need to be seen because when you get that recognition, it actually allows you to move your energy. And so it feels better and it's actually healthier for you. And if you don't get seen, if you don't get the right kind of recognition, that energy builds up in your body and it's actually not healthy for you. And you have to go move it somewhere, especially if you're a generator. You've got to go walk around the block or something because that energy has to go somewhere. And when people don't see you, and they don't recognize you, or they don't ask you, then your energy gets stuck. Okay, so it's really important for you, especially for my generators, projectors, and reflectors, to follow your strategy so that you can move your energy more correctly and take care of your body. So as I said, it's the Center for Communication and Manifestation. We say manifestation because it's about how you manifest. The way in which you manifest is going to be determined by how your throat is configured. It's going to determine whether you're a manifestor, manifesting generator, projector, reflector, and your type is going to influence how you manifest. So the definition here depends on type. If you're a manifestor, you're going to wait till your inner creative flow says, yeah, I'm going to go do this. And then you go inform and then you take action. If you're a manifesting generator, you wait for something to respond to, then you inform, and then you go take action. If you're a generator, you wait for something to respond to. If you're a projector, you wait for an invitation. If you're a reflector, you wait your 28-day cycle. If you're not using the center correctly, or if you have any kind of trauma associated with using this center and not getting a good response from people, because there can be vulnerability here, you might find that it impacts your ability to feel safe in the world being who you are, your authenticity. So you hold back, or you hide, or you shut down your power, your creative power. Or if you've gone the other extreme and you've been pushing, trying to get everybody to see you because you do the recognition, you may have burned yourself out trying to push too hard instead of waiting for the right people who get the value of who you are to see you. The G Center. The G Center is the center for love, direction, and identity. Half of you are going to have it open. Half of you are going to have it defined. When your G Center is open, there is a tendency for you to question your lovability. And again, it's the center for love and direction and identity. So if you don't feel loved or you question your lovability, it's actually going to influence not just your own experience of yourself, your identity, it also will influence the direction that your life takes you. By the way, about a month and a half ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, I did an entire quantum alignment show on the G Center. So go to the video button on the left side of the page. And if you go to that video button, you'll see that there is there's a show there. You might have to scroll around, or probably Cindy will post it for you. There's a show there that we did on the G Center. Now, it's the Center for Love, Direction, Identity. It's also, by the way, in the G Center, there's actually a magnetic force field, the magnetic resonance field of the heart, that is the source of the law of attraction. The law of attraction isn't just a woo-woo thing. There's actually a lot of science around it now. And one of the things that we see in this science of the law of attraction is that your heart's magnetic resonance field, your heart coherence, influences what you attract and create in your life. If your G Center is open, you also have what's called geomagnetic alignment, which means part of what happens for you is if you need to create, or you want to create what you really want in life, you have to be in the right geographical location. Again, I'm not going to go deep into that, but please go watch that video if you really want to learn more about your G Center. If it's defined, here's the thing, and this is important. When it's open, we tend to question our lovability. When it's defined, we have a tendency to question whether we can be accepted for who we are. Okay? This is why I love the emotional freedom technique so much, EFT. And for those of you who are familiar with EFT, you know that in EFT, we make statements, healing statements that say, even though I have this problem, I love and accept myself. It's like the perfect statement for the G Center, right? You got the love for the opens, you got the acceptance for the defines, and it basically says, I can love and accept myself. And when I love and accept myself, my life direction, G Center, Center for Direction, takes me where I need to go to continue to live out the full expression of my love, my self-love, and my self-acceptance. If you are struggling in any way, shape, or form with the themes of the G Center, you may find that the core needs that it impacts are your sense of lovability, your ability to be decisive, to know how to make the decisions that are right for you. It may actually impact your courage. You may get afraid, and the fear of being yourself in the world may hold you back. And of course, authenticity, same thing. You may feel that it's not okay to be who you are in the world, or you may never have learned how to be who you are, the true self, your authentic self out in the world. The Will Center is the center for manifestation onto the material plane. Again, 7/8 of you will have this open. Most of us have this open. So we have this obsession in our culture with willpower. Most of us don't have it. The purpose of the will center is to find the willpower, the energy to do what's necessary to endure so that we can create resources for the sake of sustaining ourselves and the people we love. Okay? It's all about being able to do what you need to do to take care of yourself and your loved ones. And ultimately, the highest expression of the will, for whether it's defined or open, is to surrender your ego, your personal self, to the place of service to the greater whole. But I have to add a big but here. That's not martyrdom. It's not about sacrificing yourself to the greater good of the whole. It's about allowing yourself, sustaining yourself, taking care of yourself so that you can be available to be of service to the greater good. When it is open, we have a tendency to do what we do in life in order to prove our value. Okay? We tend to try to prove our value or our worth. When it is defined, here's the place where we run into trouble with the defined will center when it comes to manifesting. Okay, if you're trying to prove your value, you're probably doing a lot of stuff that you really don't want to be doing, but you think if I do this, if I just do this, people are going to get my value, right? When this center is defined, this center, when it's defined, has cycles. It has deep need for cycles of rest. It's not like, oh, I'll rest later when I get this done. It's like you need to have consistent cycles of rest and renewal when you have the center defined. And if you're not taking those cycles of rest, if you're pushing through those cycles of rest, the tendency with the defined will center is to burn out big time. And when you burn out, by the way, and this is true of any place where burnout, the potential for burnout shows up in the chart. When you burn out, and that's true, there's so many different ways that we can burn out. If you burn out, you will not manifest anything. You will be in manifestation dead space. Not because you're stuck, broken, because you suck, because the universe doesn't love you, but because the universe loves you so much that it wants you to rest. And so nothing's going to happen because you need to take care of yourself and rest. So if you're feeling like, okay, I'm in manifestation dead space, if you don't know what to do, take care of yourself. Rest, nurture yourself, and do your best to stay out of worry because worry burns energy and burns you out even more. Core needs associated with the will center include vitality, not burning out, self-worth, self-value, and empowerment. How much power do you perceive that you have over your world? The spleen is a very interesting center. It's the center for instinct, for timing, and for survival. It is really our intuitive awareness or our instinctive awareness that gives us the pulse that we need to feel to get information necessary to make decisions about survival. So when you go outside in your front yard and you live in Colorado Springs in a valley or in a canyon somewhere, and you go out in your front yard and there's a drought and there's bears in your front yard, and you go and you feel afraid, that's your spleen, your instinct center saying, whoa, time out, be aware. Something is here that's affecting the potential for survival. That's the purpose of fear. Fear is the impulse that says, hey, we need to take some action here to ensure that we survive. But we're very complex. We're not really instinctive beings anymore. We're not animals. We don't function from instinct. We function from a mix of instinct, intuition, and consciousness. And because of that, that impulse, that fear impulse sometimes gets very confusing for us as humans. And we tend to drop into fears and get paralyzed in fears that have nothing to do with our survival. And that, in fact, oftentimes hold us back from doing the things that over the long term would make our survival much more joyful, right? So because the spleen doesn't like change, it likes consistency, it likes to know what to expect. When you have an open spleen, there's a tendency for you to hold on to things for longer than you should, including dysfunctional patterns, old thoughts and behaviors, and old fears. Sometimes, and this is true whether this is open or defined, there is paralysis due to the complexity of human consciousness. I talked about that. Sometimes we get paralyzed in fear here. Here's the thing that's so interesting about the defined spleen and how this can sometimes really impact you when you're talking about creating what you want in your life. The defined spleen is so fixed in how it processes immunity and timing that sometimes it misses the flow and the intuitive, instinctive impulses that it's being sent. The open spleen has a lot of variability in how it experiences intuition and instinct, and it can be very empathic, very open, very sensitive. The defined spleen sometimes is so locked into, this is the one way that I know. This is the one way I understand my intuition. This is the one way I understand my instinct. And it happens within this time frame and I get stuck in it. That you may sometimes with the defined spleen miss the cues about the flow of life and what's being shown to you and what's being revealed to you. So that in terms of manifesting, that can be some aspect of the defined spleen that can hold you back from really being in the flow and seeing in that dance that we do with the outer reality, what's really coming your way. The core needs here. Yes, Cindy, you're going to tell me something.
I was going to tell you there's about 7 minutes until the top of the hour, and I know how many centers are left.
I have 3 centers left. I'm good. So the core needs for the spleen are self-trust and courage. The emotional solar plexus, I'm going to keep this super simple. When it is open, you're empathic. You feel other people's feelings. And what happens oftentimes when you have an open solar plexus is you become afraid to deal with truth and consequences. And you make choices around keeping everybody else happy and trying to please everyone. It's sort of the perfect storm for being quasi-codependent. The solar plexus is the most creative energy in the chart. It is about feelings, and it is ultimately about knowing what the feeling is when things feel right. And it has clarity when things feel right. When you have a defined solar plexus, because you have your own emotional waves, and I did a whole thing on the emotional solar plexus, and actually I'm going to do in the next couple of weeks another presentation. I don't know the timing yet on this, but over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to do a whole nother Facebook Live on the emotional solar plexus because I've had a lot of questions come up recently about the solar plexus and creativity. So don't panic if you have a defined solar plexus. We'll talk more about it. But the struggle when you have it defined is a struggle for clarity. And when you don't understand the nature of your emotional energy and you have a defined solar plexus, you can sometimes be rather reactive instead of deliberate in what you create. And so it creates sort of an emotional reaction that can sometimes make you make decisions that are disappointing. The core needs here for the solar plexus, if you are struggling with either understanding your own inner emotional terrain, if you're defined, or you're making decisions for the sake of others, if you have this open, the core needs that can get triggered here is the core need of courage, emotional wisdom, empowerment, or decisiveness. Sacral. The sacral center is the center for workforce and life force energy. If you are a manifestor, projector, or reflector, this will be undefined. If you are a generator or a manifesting generator, you will have this defined. When this center is open, you are taking in workforce energy and life force energy, and you are amplifying it. And what happens oftentimes is it feels really good in the short run. You become a superhuman in a short run if you're a manifestor, projector, or reflector. But oftentimes what happens is you don't know when enough is enough. You can take in so much energy that you forget, oh, this isn't mine. And you forget to stop and you forget to rest and you push and you push and you push until you ultimately burn yourself out. Again, as I said, you're burned out, all bets are off. You're going into manifestation dead space because the universe loves you. It doesn't want you to have anything to do. It wants you to lay on the couch until you restore yourself back to your natural energy flow. If this is defined for you, what happens a lot of times is you don't understand and trust that this is part of your authority and your decision making. If you're a generator, this is key. This is your golden compass, okay? Your sacral will tell you what you need to do and how you need to do it and when you need to do it. If you don't trust your sacral, if you're a generator type, what will happen is you won't respond. So you'll make decisions in a way that's not right for you. And you won't make the right decisions and you'll get frustrated and you'll quit. And that quitting will keep you from creating what you really want in your life because you're not going about creating it correctly and allowing yourself to respond to what shows up. The core needs of the sacral include decisiveness, courage, vitality, and empowerment. I'm on the last one, Cindy. Last but not least, the root center. The root center is also a pressure center. When it is open, you get under pressure and it's adrenalized pressure. So it's the pressure to get things done so that you can be free. And if you have an open root, you are perpetually making a to-do list, and that to-do list never stops. It never ends. It's ever going. So if you have an open root center, it's really important to learn to ask yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen if I choose to not do this right now? And 99% of the time, it means nothing bad is going to happen. It's okay for you to take a breath and chill, and to trust that in the morning, you'll still have the pressure to get it done later, and nothing bad will have happened in the meantime. When it is defined, it operates with a pulse. This is the drive or the pulse for doing. This root center is the drive or the pulse for doing. And when it's defined, okay, when it's open, it's like do, 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 do all the time, right? When it's defined, you're designed actually to wait for the right pulse. And that pulse is a pulse that's involved with timing. It gives you a pulse, an energetic adrenaline pulse that says, now is the right time to take action. Now is the right time to go do something, whatever that is, depending on, and however you get to it, because your strategy is going to determine what it is that you're doing or how it is that you're doing. But the pulse gives you that extra drive for doing. We're not allowed oftentimes in our culture to wait for that pulse. And so oftentimes we're trained to push through that pulse. If you're not feeling that pulse, if you go to work and it's like, man, my root pulse just is not on today. Too bad, so sad. You still have to go to work, right? And so what happens is we end up drawing on energy reserves, adrenaline reserves that we don't necessarily have, that cause us to have to push. And again, causes us to burn out. That's that core need here, the core need of vitality. And if we are not allowed to follow our own flow of energy, and unfortunately most of us are not, then we lose vitality. And that vitality depletes our creative capacity. So I'm almost done, Cindy. Last slide. So I just want to encourage you guys or invite you guys to pay attention to what I've been mailing out, or listen to me carefully right now. Starting on June the 19th, I'm doing something I have never done before. I'm actually starting a 14-day challenge. Yes.
Actually, Karen, I just heard that we're going to start it a day earlier because...
Are we?
Yes. Kristen has looked at the schedule, and it's actually, we're starting, instead of a Tuesday, we're going to be starting on that Monday, which probably makes more sense.
It does make more sense. I like Mondays. So anyway, we're starting on a Monday, the 18th.
The 18th.
We're going for 14 days. And over the course of 14 days, you're going to get 10 introductory videos that are going to teach you about human design and the mechanics of creating, and how you can calibrate yourself and your energy field to be more in alignment with your authentic self, and to leverage the law of attraction and the quantum field. We're also going to have a pop-up Facebook group. And in that pop-up Facebook, actually, we've already created the Facebook group. We already have people who've signed up. I'm going to be putting in over the next couple of weeks bonus material, pre-challenge material. And my students already got some stuff this week that's going to get you ready for this challenge. But we're going to meet every day on the Facebook group. I'm going to have open office hours. I'm going to vary them. Sometimes I'll have them in the morning. Sometimes they'll be in the evening. So you can log on every day of the challenge, watch your video, and then join me. And it'll be a Zoom format. So you can join me. You can call in. We'll actually be able to talk to each other. It won't just be me on Facebook Live. And we'll look at your chart. We'll look at your questions. We'll look at whatever you want to create in your life. We'll troubleshoot if you get stuck, or you feel like your belief systems come up, or you've had an experience that you want to work through. We're going to be here with you over the course of 14 days. Really supporting you, really encouraging you, really coming together in community. This pop-up group is so cool. You can actually create your own Facebook story in the pop-up group, so you can connect not only with me live on the group on the page, but actually with each other, and cheer each other on and support each other. We'll be breaking off into pods so that we can co-create together with consciousness. You will have a live open Q&A call during the course of those 14 days. We'll have a book group. We're actually going to be reading a book and studying a book together over that 2 weeks, and I have the book in mind. And on top of that, you'll be invited to join a live masterclass. That masterclass is actually going to happen after the 14-day challenge, but we're bringing in, we did this last year in the quantum alignment program. So this is a different way of doing the quantum alignment program. We're going to be bringing in top level experts, and I'm not going to drop names yet, but we're in the middle of having a really beautiful conversation with some high level people that we're going to be bringing in. And you'll be able to be live on the call, in the master class, in the interview. We'll be interviewing people that are of the same caliber that I interviewed last year in the quantum alignment. We had Dawson Church come. We had Dr. Miko Swami come. We had Howard Martin from Heart Math come. We had Lynn McTaggart come. We had Man, we had a lot of people come. Ooh, so
Yeah, Dr. Droon
we
come,
had Dr.
Jacob
Paul
Norby.
Jewinson, Jacob Nordby. So we'll have a top level, high level master class after the 14-day challenge. We'll give you guys some time to recuperate and then you can come to master class and ask some more questions. But the program is $97. It's built into the program that for every 10 programs we register people for, that I will be giving a scholarship to members of our Human Design Scholarship group. So every 10 people that registers will be giving a scholarship. So your contribution actually is contributing to somebody else being able to participate in the program. And if you want to meet me, in addition to coming to the 14-day challenge, if you want to meet me and have lunch with me live in Santa Fe, September 14th through the 16th, and join me for Creative Reboot, which is a powerful, powerful weekend where I'm going to be teaching with Julia Cameron, Jacob Nordby, and some really high-level, amazing creative teachers. Email me, Karen@joyfulmission.com. And I will send you details for how you can go to Creative Reboot, have lunch with me, get a 1-hour human design reading with me, and participate in the 14-day Manifesting by Human Design Challenge. So good. All right. Question.
Yes, you'd be able to view the calls info on the 14th if we can't make the times. Yes, there'll be recorded calls and it'd be available there.
And you can post your questions in the Facebook pop-up group too. So even if you can't be on the live call.
Or we do have some people that are not in Facebook that I've been taught. And so it would be, I'm pretty sure most of the pop-ups will be something, or your Q&As will be in this format so that they could also participate in the Zoom webinar format. You don't have to belong to, and you would have, it's in the emails I just posted in the chat there. Yeah. Karen@joyfulmission.com. We did have a couple questions, but I'm doing my normal.
I know you, and I'm okay if you have the time. I'm okay to go a little over. Do you have the time, Cindy, or do you have to run?
I do, and I did post just so both Facebook and then in the chat here. There was the post just so they know the G Center, the one on the emotions, and then the heart activation, which was the power QA heart resonance, which was the one that had the questions. Cool. First question that came in as you were starting: what does it mean when you are a projector with a defined emotional solar plexus?
It means that when you get an invitation, you need to feel your way through the invitation over a couple of days before you accept it. And that's a tricky thing for projectors, because the projector invitation doesn't come that often. It's not about being invited to go to a movie or to dinner. It's about waiting for the big invitations in life. And because there's oftentimes a long, not always, but there can be a longer waiting period. When they get an invitation, if you get an invitation or a projector, like, I'm taking it, because you're just ready. You're so excited you got an invitation that you don't really feel your way into it. This is true of anybody who has emotional authority, and that's 50% of you. You need to respond or wait for the invitation or feel the invitation, whatever it is for you. If you're a manifestor, you need to wait for that inner timing on the creative flow. But whatever your strategy is, you need to have the same feeling about whatever the opportunity is over the course of a couple of days until you know for sure that your feeling level around the opportunity stays the same. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're a projector, you get an invitation and you go, yeah, I want to do that. You need to make sure that you hold on to that, yeah, I want to do that feeling over the course of a couple of days. If you do, then that's the right decision for you. But if you start out going, yeah, and then you wake up the next day going, oh my God, this is going to be a nightmare. And then 2 hours later, you're like, yes. And then 2 hours later, you're like, no. If you make a commitment to take that invitation, the entire time you're in that opportunity, you're going to be all over the place with your energy with that commitment. And it's not going to feel good. And you're going to question yourself, and you may even burn yourself out. So your response, and response is a tricky word to say, but your emotional reaction to whatever the opportunity is needs to be consistent over time and not all over the place. And if it stays that way, then you're golden. And if not the right thing. next question.
Next question. Might be more of a comment. Tenocha said, I'm a generator with an open throat. And I think it was when you were talking about the throat center. And my response was whether that was resonating with him on what you need with an open, I mean, I guess the recognition.
So right now we're recognizing you. We see you. Hi. So.
Had another Tenocha also had asked, I live with my brother. He's a manifesting generator. So his throat is defined and connected to a motor center. When he gets excited and believes in something, I can always tell because I feel his excitement, even if it's subtle. He keeps making suggestions for a career for me, and I sometimes feel like the excitement is my own. Is there a way to differentiate better what is my own excitement?
So I would say for you, get out of your brother's aura. Even if you just go for a walk for 15 or 20 minutes, but you have to get out of your whoever's aura that you're in and make sure you give enough space, and even sometimes take an afternoon away from that person and see if that feeling is sustained when you get out of that person's energy field. Usually once we get out of somebody's energy field, it takes an hour or two to kind of settle down all their energy, and you can feel the difference. Sometimes if somebody has a really powerful aura, and people have different qualities to their auras, you might need 24 hours away from them. But I would certainly say get some alone time, get some time in your own auric integrity, go for a walk, go around the block, go away to a different place and see if that energy sustains or not. Thing is, for you, you are a generator. Trust your sacral response as much as you can. This gets really tricky, by the way, if you have an open G too, in addition to whatever's going on with the throat center. When you have an open G and you're living with somebody who has a drive or desire or direction, you have to be really careful not to take in their identity and their drive and their direction and mistakenly think it's yours.
So Tenocha added again, saying I'm a sacral generator with a defined root. And I think that what you just said, how would I know if an opportunity is right for me? That's definitely trusting your sacral, having someone ask yes or no question. Let me go back. Oh, okay. BJ says, I'm a manifesting generator, but the generator sounds so much like me too. My response was, they're a generator type.
Yeah, if you're a manifesting generator, you will relate to the generator because you're kind of half generator, half manifester, but you are more primarily a generator type. You have a red square. It makes you a sacral being. You will relate to the generator for sure because you kind of are one.
Grace asked, it would be helpful if each of the slides had an open question since there's always a question for the defined. My response is, we have those handouts that you hadn't mentioned that I will be posting.
And actually the question on the slides is for the open centers. There is not a question for the defined center. But Cindy has posted below a link to questions for the open centers, affirmations for the open centers, and affirmations for the defined centers. So there's 3 handouts for the centers posted below. So grab those, open them up, print them, and think about the energies in those centers.
Okay, and final, okay. 2 questions.
Yes.
From Facebook, Angela says, can emotional generators ever rely or use the sacral response?
You're going to use your sacral response over the course of your emotional wave. So if you're a generator and you get something to respond to, you need to be going, over the course of your wave. So you need time and you need to wait. And while you're waiting, your response needs to stay the same. And if it does, then that's the right decision for you. And you better be using your sacral. So, yes.
Okay. I have 2 more. One more just came in.
Okay.
And
so we'll do the next 2 questions and then we'll go home. Or you'll go home.
So Meredith says, I'm a generator with open centers other than the root and sacral. Can I manifest as long as I get a sacral yes in response to what is occurring around me, or invitations where I'm recognized?
For sure. And I would say your sacral is going to save your life because you have so much openness. It's easy, especially if you get up in your head, to get confused about, wait, what do I want to do? Wait, who am I? Where am I? Trust your sacral.
Okay, final question from here on Zoom. Got another short one, but Janelle says, I have a defined will center, and what you said was so exactly what is happening with me right now and for most of my life. I've been trying to figure out life and answer every question that arises in my mind. I have an open head center and everything else is defined. 2-5 manifesting generator. You mentioned that worry burns you out more than anything. I've been a worrier since childhood. Are some types more prone to this, or is this from the open head?
It's a lot. There's a lot that contributes to worry. Certainly, we say the open head definitely wants to know the answer, and that can certainly contribute to worry. There are other elements in the chart, most specifically the gate 62, which comes off the top left-hand side of the throat center, and the gate 20, which comes off the bottom left-hand side of the throat center. Those two gates can oftentimes add to worry. And also, if you are a first line or a fourth line profile, sometimes you can be more prone to worry. That's not all of it, but that's a good beginning. So.
And the last question, I promise, I'm not going to even look at any other ones. Right. Sarah on Facebook says, hi, Karen, are you able to identify someone as an earth empath? She's a 6-2 manifesting generator. And her other question is, what does the left angle cross of the alpha mean? She's stumped. Blessings.
Okay, so I'm going to hold off on the left angle cross of the alpha. I will encourage you, though, to watch last week's show, because last week I talked about the left angles and the profiles. The incarnation crosses is a whole nother conversation to have, and we could do that one at another time. And I would say, if I was going to look at a chart and go, okay, what's an earth empath? I would say anytime you have openness, particularly if you have an open G or an open solar plexus or an open spleen, not limited to, but particularly, if you have the gate 5 coming off the top left of the sacral, if you have the 15 coming off the bottom left of the G center, or if you have the gate 19, which comes off the top right-hand side of the root center. So write those down and go find them on your chart. The 19, the 5, or the 15, defined. Now, remember, you have all of the chart. So if you go, well, that's not in my chart, remember, you have all of the chart. I do tend to see a correlation between definition in those places. That does not mean if you feel like you are an earth empath that you're not an earth empath. Trust yourself. There's nothing in that chart. In fact, I don't want to ever look at a chart and tell you something that you don't resonate with, or I don't ever want to cause you to see the chart as being your authority. You're your authority. You know yourself. You know what's right for you. If it feels right and you own it, and that's an identity that empowers you and makes you feel aligned in the way in which you create your life, and that life is a reflection of what you really want in your life, it feels good to you, then please follow that path. And that's even true if you go, human design is bunk, I don't relate to any of that. I am not here to teach you human design. I'm here to help you discover your own place of truth within yourself. And whether it's human design, whether it's Enneagram, whether it's flaming angel standing on your bed, whether it's dogs looking in your eyes soulfully and saying, I love you, you're my soul dog and my soul mama, whatever. I don't care where you find the answers, but they need to be your answers. And those answers that are yours, that's your truth. That's what I want you to find for yourself, because that's what you deserve. That's it.
Well, that was very good.
That's a good place to stop.
It's a very good place to stop. And actually, we haven't had any other questions. So
good. All right. So we will post the link for the 14-day Manifesting by Human Design program. Please, 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 I want you to join us because it's going to be so fun. I can't wait. Every morning I lay in bed plotting the homework exercise and what we're going to do. So it's going to be fun. It'll be easy. It's not going to take up chunks and chunks of your day. It's going to be quick, easy, nice, beautiful way to recalibrate. Nice, beautiful way to reconnect with what maybe you started off doing in January. Maybe you said, okay, this is my goals for this year. Maybe now it's June-ish and you're going, not quite there yet. The energies are supporting us really moving into high creative mode right now. So let's work together and let's harness our creative power and get you out into the world doing what you came here to do in a beautiful, fun, and joyful, abundant way. Okay. So, All right, Cindy, thank you for joining me. Thank all of you for joining me. Next week on the Quantum Alignment Show, we have a special guest. Kristen Shorter will be presenting, and I'm pretty sure she's going to be talking about something related to parenting and parenting relationships, but I can't promise that because she knows a lot and she has a lot that she likes to talk about, and she's very, very good. And just join her. She's fabulous. I will be, as I said, sharing information with you. Actually, I didn't say this. I said this in my head. As I said at the very, very beginning, I have my kid home now for the summer, which is one of my greatest exciting things in my life. I love having the summer with my kid, my daughter, my youngest daughter. And what that does mean for me is that I won't be doing as many of the quantum alignment shows during the summer. I will, however, be popping on and doing other Facebook lives and other Facebook trainings during the week at different times and at various times. I'm going to try to vary it up a little bit so that sometimes some of my clients in Europe and other places can also join live. So doesn't mean I'm going away. Doesn't mean we're not going to learn anything. It just means that we're bringing in over the course of the summer some incredible guest hosts who are brilliant and have lots and loads to share. And we'll start next Friday with Kristen. And hope you have a great week. And I will see you very soon. Bye. Bye. Thanks, Cindy.